Thank you for being here today. I'm going to be talking about how to build financial confidence, and we're going to talk about some tips. Mostly going to be going through our budget workshop, which, by the way, is one of our most popular presentations that we do for consumers. Let's get started. So a little bit of housekeeping. I have to read this slide for you. The views and opinions expressed in this presentation are those of the presenter. They do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the DFPI. This presentation is for educational and informational purposes only. This is not financial or legal advice. If you have a question, please feel free to submit it into the Zoom's Q&A. And like Tish was saying, we do have a dedicated time at the end of the webinar where we'll be answering those. There is an email address on the screen. It's outreach@dfpi.ca.gov. And that's if you want to email me questions or ask my team. We do free presentations in person, virtually, like webinars right now. We do this all throughout California. So just feel free to contact us if you want a copy of these slides. Again, feel free to email us and we'd be happy to help. Okay. I do want to quickly talk about the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, also known as the DFPI. Who are we? What is our role? Well, our central purpose is to maintain a fair, healthy, and trusted financial marketplace for all Californians. We do this by regulating and enforcing a variety of financial services, products, and professionals. And again, we also provide free presentations all throughout California to help protect consumers, to help inform them, and to prevent them from falling prey to frauds and scams. For more information, we do have a dedicated section on our website where we publish news articles, consumer alerts, a list of the different events that we do in person and virtually. Please feel free to check that out. The link is dfpi.ca.gov/consumers. Okay. One more plug, I promise, before we jump into the actual presentation. The DFPI offers free online financial education. It's a learning platform. All you have to do is register with your email address, and then you'll have access to a number of different courses and modules. So things like budgeting, investing, retirement planning, paying for college, getting out of debt, estate planning, a lot of different topics and courses available on this learning platform. It's available and open to anyone to register and access. To get started, you want to go to dfpi.ca.gov/learn. Okay, so let's real quickly, I want to talk about the importance of financial literacy. Number one, you're here to learn, and I'm so thankful of that. Financial literacy is a great and very important life skill. It enables individuals to make those smart financial decisions, and it helps you understand the complexities of the financial world. How financial literacy helps you, it'll help you understand key financial terms, topics, and sometimes jargon, right? It'll also help you empower to take control of your finances. And if you're, again, learning about financial topics and understanding those things, it can help you avoid those financial scams and fraud, right? As my mentor always says, the more you know, the less that other individuals can take advantage of you. And that's what financial literacy is all about. Okay, so we have this, I like to call it a roadmap that we developed, my department, and it's essentially with any kind of map, you want to identify where you're at, and then identify where you want to go, right? So any kind of map, whether you're talking about Google Maps or an atlas of some sort, you again want to find out where are you, and then where do you want to be. So are you financially insecure? Are you financially stable? Are you financially secure? And then once you identify where you're at, you can talk about or try to determine where do you want to go and how can you get there, right? Here on this slide, we just want to give some very broad definitions of each category, right? It looks very similar to like a spectrum, but essentially it's talking about, what is the difference between financial stability and financial insecurity, right? So making enough money to cover, your daily expenses. Financial insecurity, for example, is like having no funds or income to handle any kind of hardships that might happen. So any kind of small emergencies, you would be financially insecure, right? So again, very broad definitions. It just kind of helps you determine where are you, and then also where do you want to be. And finally, the point of understanding the financial capability roadmap and how you can use it is, once you know where you're at, right, you can move, and I've seen this personally, you can move from this side of the spectrum to this side, right? And all it takes is understanding and using a number of different financial literacy topics. So things like budgeting, managing debt, building credit, retirement planning, investing, saving. There's a lot of different financial literacy topics which you can use. And again, it could just take one, it might take a couple to get you from this side to this side of the roadmap. So again, we like to share this to help individuals understand and take an honest look at where they're at, and think about where they want to go, and then figure out what little things they need to do to get there, right? Okay, I hope that was helpful. Let's go ahead and talk about, now that we've talked about this, let's talk about where to start, right? The most common question I get when I do workshops is, how do I start? And what's the one thing I can do to help me? What's the biggest impact thing that I could do? And by far, and I've seen this literally from many different people, it's budgeting, right? Budgeting is where everything starts. And that's because you're going to think about the income, what money you got coming in, and then of course, what you're spending money on, and then how you can save, right? So it's that planning. What I like to talk about is budgeting is goal setting, right? Nobody budgets just to do spreadsheets or put numbers on a form. Nobody does that, right? People are trying to budget to achieve a financial goal. So that's the mindset you should have, budgeting to achieve a financial goal. And so, again, it's one of those critical financial skills that helps build healthy financial behaviors and habits. And that's what we really want to do, right? We're not just trying to save once. We're not trying to do one thing one time. We're trying to build those healthy financial behaviors and habits that can continue on and help us, again, reach those financial goals. You can earn gratification by achieving your budgeted goals. And also by writing down your goals, it helps you be more committed to achieving those goals. So let's talk about why should you budget, right? The biggest one I tell everyone is, hey, at the very least, budgeting is going to tell you or show you where your money is going, right? Where am I spending my money? How much money I make, that kind of thing. It can help you create financial stability if you, again, plan for where you want to spend your money and move your money. We talked about building healthy saving and spending habits. It can help you prioritize your spending, right? So instead of just spending whenever you get the chance, you prioritize what's most important. And also it could help you pay down debts and start saving. Preparing for emergencies is so important, right? Very oftentimes emergencies are the reason you get into debt, right? You weren't prepared for it. So you have to put those emergencies on a credit card or take out a personal loan to pay for it. Obviously, it's going to help you manage your money better. And again, going back to it, budgeting is goal setting. It's setting those financial goals and then helping you meet it, right? It's a roadmap to achieving your financial goals. So I like to be a little bit interactive, and I like to, see what the audience is thinking about. I want to ask you right now, what are your top 3 financial goals? And I don't know if the chat is open. It looks like it might be. Feel free to put it, I don't know if you could type in the chat, but feel free to put your top three financial goals there. I like to read them out, think about it. I'll share mine. My top three financial goals. Number one, pay off my student loan. It's kind of this baggage that hangs around my neck. That master's degree was not cheap, but it was very worth it. But I'm trying to pay that off as fast as possible. I'm also saving for my kids' college, so that's one big goal for me. And then my family and I want to go to Japan in a couple of years. We're slowly saving for it, but it's one of those financial goals that we're looking forward to on the horizon, and we're working towards it. So I love this. Thank you for sharing, by the way. Peace of mind, I love it. Little nest egg, saving for vacation, I love it. Comfortable retirement, good. Car, financing home, yes, very good. Home, having a home is great, but a mortgage is not great. But buying a house, investing into it, excellent investment. Paying off debt, very good. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to move on. We have a lot of great slides, but thank you for sharing. And I do really appreciate you and learning about some of your financial goals and aspirations. It's amazing. Okay, so I'm going to just boil down the basics of budgeting. I am going to show you how to budget on our spreadsheets. So the first thing you want to do is determine your income. So that could be salary, passive income. So if you have like dividends, if you have earnings that comes in, and then anything you sell, right? So that's income. It could be a lot of different things, but income is not necessarily just a paycheck. So think about that. Then you want to identify all your debt, right? So that could be things like car loans, credit cards, student loans, a mortgage, and then you want to identify your expenses. Now, this is something that many people don't talk about, and I believe I have another slide that will talk more about this. The difference between debt and expenses. A debt is a promise you made, right? You borrowed the money, and you promised to repay it back. An expense is an ongoing cost. So you always have to eat. You always have to pay for utilities, right? Water, electricity, internet, insurance, right? Gas for transportation, that kind of thing. There's always that ongoing cost. And so you treat debt differently from expenses. Debt, you want to try to pay off as fast as possible. Expenses, you want to try to keep as small as possible, right? And that's why we have two different categories about them. And then, here I do have a section for fun. You always, and it's a broad category, you call it lots of things, but eating out, clothing, shopping, any kind of subscriptions like Netflix, you could put it there. And then you want to have your financial goals as well, right? So part of your budget should identify any financial goals you have and any money you might be saving towards that. And so here's kind of, by the way, but at the bottom, here is the calculation, right? You take your income, you subtract your debt, you subtract your expenses, you subtract your fund, and anything left over should be towards your financial goals, right? Again, very broad budgeting, basic calculation. The reason why we put financial goals at the end is that you're prioritizing paying off debts, paying expenses, and any other kind of expenses you might have before you do your financial goals. I've seen some budgets where people move the financial goals into this equation, and the problem is people may try to prioritize their financial goals, but again, your debts, right? Food that you have to eat, and utilities are the bigger priority, and so that's why this is why it should be this type of equation. Okay, so let's get started. If you want, you could follow along with me, right? When I do this in person, I usually have a little worksheet that people can just fill out, but you could also download this worksheet and use it. I'm gonna share my screen and go over it. So first things first, I'm going to, let's see, hold on. I'm gonna share my screen, share my spreadsheet. Okay, I hope you can see this. I'll kind of describe it to you. So here in our first columns, we have our income. And by the way, I put numbers into here simply to just get it started. And we're going to play around, by the way. So if you ever come to my budgeting workshop, we do a lot more exercises to kind of understand how this all calculates. But you feel free, by the way, to use this spreadsheet wherever you want. But again, this is kind of the basic calculation. You can change this, rename things. It is your copy once you download it and customize it to you. This first column here, where it's your income, right? And then we have your debts, and then we have expenses, we have fun, and then we have your financial goals, right? And then we have kind of a breakdown calculation at the end. So let's just kind of walk you through the spreadsheet right now, through these numbers. So let's say, by the way, this is a monthly budget. Again, you can change this to be weekly, daily if you want to, but for our purposes, this is a monthly budget. Okay, so for every month, you make $5,000, or this person's budget makes $5,000. Looks like they also sell something on the side. Maybe they do garage sales, or maybe they make something and they sell it. Every month they make about $100 off of that. They also have a side hustle that makes another $200 a month. So that might be, ride share, or, maybe a side business that they have. They cut hair, something like that. So the total income for the month is $5,300, right? So $5,300. And then we have your debts, right? Actually, rent should not be here. I apologize. Rent should be here. It's an expense. Now, we'll change that in a minute, but debts, remember, debts is you borrowed money and with a promise to pay it back. So things like car loan, student loan, credit card. There could be a lot of other things, right? Personal loans, that kind of a thing. And then we have your expenses, right? And so this person, they pay about $2,000 a month in rent. They average $400 in food, utilities, gas, cell phone, right? So all these other things that they're paying. There's also a little section I put for allowance, and that's, a lot of people have questions about this. I put this here because when I do this workshop, very often people come back and the feedback I get is that, they spend their money, but then they end up having other things that they don't know, like they didn't plan for, right? Maybe their friends wanted to go out and eat, or maybe their kids had, they have some project that you got to go buy stuff for. So I made a section in the expenses and called it, just allowance. So this particular person has the ability to change the allowance as they need to, but it's an ongoing thing, right? It's not debt. And then we have fun, right? So this month looks like there's someone's birthday and they are budgeting $100 for it. Looks like there's also an anniversary and they are budgeting $100 for that. And they have to travel for work. And so there's $50 for that. So we have kind of a fun category. And then we have their financial goals, right? So it looks like they are saving $200 a month for their emergency fund. They're also saving $500 a month for investments, and $500 a month for down payment, $100 a month for investing. So for financial goals, it's a total of $800 a month that they're putting away, right? So if we do the whole breakdown, right? Monthly income minus debts, minus expenses, minus fun, minus financial goals, looks like you have $80 left. So this person has $80 left. And you could plug in your own numbers. Maybe you don't have a car loan. You could change this all up. It's a very simple budget. And there's many different types of sheets out there. This is the one that I like to use because again, it calculates everything for you. Let's do a couple of things. Okay, so we calculated income, debt, expenses, fun, and financial goals, right? Let's do a couple of things here. So let's say instead of renting, now this person they bought a house, right? So you're going to change this. You're going to add a mortgage, right? And let's say instead of paying $2,000, they're paying $2,500 a month for a mortgage. Okay. So rent goes to zero. You see how you see how the leftover, you're in the negative now. You could do things like change numbers, right? Let's say for the allowance, we're going to just give ourselves $200. You're $20 short. Okay. So let's try to cut back on some utilities, right? Let's call it 180. So it evens out. Good. Okay. So again, this is how it's very easy to calculate things, move things around. Let's do one more thing, right? Let's add a spouse. Spouse. Okay. So let's say this person is married or they just got married and their spouse makes the same amount of money per month. You could see suddenly how things have just kind of doubled. Maybe this spouse also has, let's say, student loan. And maybe every month they pay $200 in their student loan too, right? And maybe they have a credit card. So spouse, credit card, and they pay $200 on a credit card, right? There are things that you can combine, right? So food, you're not eating as much. It's not you're eating so much, but you're not cooking and you're also sharing food. So let's say you're only spending $600 here. Utilities are about the same. Let's say it's $200. And then of course, gas, let's double that. Cell phone, you're saving by having 2 cell phones on a plan. Life insurance, double that. Internet, you both share the same internet, right? But the allowance, let's say you have $800, right? That's $400 for each of you. So as you can see, by adding someone else in their income, you can have a lot more money left over. And this is, again, the beauty of having a budget is being able to sit down and see everything and then say, hey, listen, after I planned out how much I pay for my car, my student loans, after I've set up all my, identified my financial goals, I should have this much left, right? Every month, $3,400. Where do I want to put this money, right? Maybe I want to pay off this car loan. Maybe I want to pay off this credit card, right? Maybe I want to add more money into the emergency fund. And you could do that, right? And I'm going to do that real quick. We're just going to spend 1 minute kind of messing around, updating this budget sheet. So let's say I got married, we are combining our income, and we're going to go ahead and help pay off some of these things, right? So instead of paying $100, $200 a month on the car loan, I'm going to pay $1,000. And let's pay off my spouse's credit card very fast. Let's say we pay $500 a month. Okay. I still have money left over. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to put more money into our emergency fund. And we are, by the way, we have a mortgage already, so we shouldn't have a down payment. But let's just call it investments. Let's call it, oh no, this is it. Kids college fund. Perfect. And let's double that, right? So again, all about planning, all about being able to see everything at once, change things. Maybe you're looking at this and you're like saying, wow, we spend $600 a month on food. That's a lot per month. What are we eating and how can we cut that down, right? So again, looking at this from a glance, you could see where all your money is going, and then of course, plan better, right? And this is the other thing. We'll talk more about it in the next couple slides. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the Q&A. I'm happy to answer questions. Again, I'm just sharing this spreadsheet. There are many different types of spreadsheets out there. I like this one specifically because it shows you, it has this dedicated section for financial goals, right? And that way you put it into your budget so that hey, these are things that are happening in my life, right? These are things that are happening in my life, but I want to plan to achieve these things, right? Maybe you want to go vacation and let's save $200 a month on vacation. And that's going to build up over time. And then you could also name this, by the way. This could be March 2026, right? And then you can start a whole new spreadsheet. Now, the other thing, and thank you, Tish, for noting, is this is an Excel spreadsheet. But there's also, and if you may not have Microsoft Excel, but you can open this spreadsheet in many different programs. There is a program out there called Open Office. Last time I checked, it was free, and they have the ability to open spreadsheets, edit, save, that kind of thing. Again, it's called Open Office. There's a couple of different other spreadsheet programs out there. Google has their own spreadsheet program, and it's very easy to just import this into their program and then play around with it, make your changes, save it as your own, customize it for you. Okay, so I hope this is helpful. Again, budgeting is that one thing that you can do. If you can't do anything else, if you just want to focus on that one thing, budgeting is that one thing you can do to help you, again, at least identify where your debts, your expenses are, how much money you're spending, and make changes, right, to achieve your financial goals. So let's talk about some popular budgeting strategies, right? This one's called the 50-30-20. And basically what it is it's kind of a rule of thumb, right? I know a lot of people who are not math fans. I know a lot of people that are not spreadsheet fans. So this is just a popular method that you could just quickly in your head do the math. And so, in the 50-30-20 method, 50% of your income that you bring per month, 50% of it is for your needs. So that's like rent, debts, utilities, insurance, gas, groceries. You just kind of do a quick calculation. And then 30% is for discretionary spending. So again, that's the non-essential stuff. And then 20% is for savings, right? So here's an example. Let's say, and by the way, just to make the numbers easy to calculate, let's say you make $10,000 a month. 50% of that income is $5,000, right? So you know that you have $5,000 you need to set aside for rent, for credit card debts, for utilities, for food. 50% of that, $5,000. It's a quick way to do math, right? And then if you have like 20%, which is $2,000, and then you have 30%. So $2,000 a month for savings, retirement, and then 30% for other things like, vacation, entertainment, birthdays that happen. So again, it's a popular strategy because it's quick calculation in your head, and you don't have to sit down and do spreadsheets or use an app on your phone. Just want to share that. The other one I want to talk about, and I'm not a big fan of this, but believe it or not, a lot of college students are. So just sharing it out there. It's called the envelope method. In this method, I'm going to put it out there. I'm not going to read the slide, but I'll kind of give you a very quick overview. In the envelope method, you have a bunch of envelopes, and each envelope you label a particular expense, right? So every month you get paid, you cash out that check, and then you put money into the envelopes. So one envelope could say food, another envelope could say gas, another envelope could say fun, right? And then when you need to spend money, you just go to your envelopes and just pull money out of those envelopes. If there's no money left in that envelope, well, then you don't have any more money left for that expense. If you don't spend all that money, then that extra money could be used for next month's, right? Again, I've talked to a couple of college students that like this because it's very easy. There's no math involved. You just put money in envelopes. The downside is this: you're storing a lot of cash in a bunch of envelopes, and someone could steal that, right? So that's why I'm not a big fan of it. If you have a secure spot and this method works for you, great. I say do it, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what budget method you use. From what I've seen, whatever works for you is the best method, right? So I've seen some people put in the chat and some Q&A, different types of budgeting tools and methods, apps. There's lots of different budgeting apps out there. If you like spreadsheets, I like spreadsheets. It works for me. Great. If you like the apps, fantastic. If you have other ways to budget, use it, because I've seen personally where individuals who are financially insecure was able to just start budgeting, understand where they're spending their money, and make a very few small changes, and they go from being financially insecure to financially stable and then financially secure, right? And it was just one thing they did, which was start budgeting, right? And then they could start doing other things like saving, investing. So just try different methods. If the spreadsheets doesn't work for you, try something else. But just keep trying, because I definitely want you to achieve your financial goals. Okay, talk about emergency fund, right? Why is an emergency fund important? What is it? Why should you have one? An emergency fund is a readily accessible stockpile of money. It's set aside to cover those unexpected expenses. Again, I want to stress readily accessible, and I'll talk about it in a minute. So why should you have an emergency fund? Again, financial security and readiness. Imagine, just right now, imagine if you had $50,000 in an emergency fund, just set aside, right? In case something happens, in case you get a flat tire, in case you get a car accident, in case some medical thing happens, in case a family member from across the country needs you to fly out there to help them, right? You have $50,000 set aside. That is financial security and readiness. It gives you that peace of mind. And I saw someone put that in the chat earlier, so it's fantastic. You could avoid debt, right? Again, very often people take out debt to pay for an emergency. But if you have an emergency fund in place, you could avoid debt. Financial flexibility. And I do want to, again, talk really quickly about having readily accessible money. Two big reasons. And I've talked to individuals that say they have, $40,000, $60,000 in an emergency fund, but they put it into stocks, right? I have $60,000, I put it into stocks, and that's my emergency fund. The problem with that is you have to sell those stocks and able to get that money out. And the problem is the stock market is only open Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. So that's really not an emergency fund, because if you have an emergency on the weekend, you can't access those funds, right? And again, readily accessible. So don't put it in a bank, which would take you an hour to go get, right? Yes, put the money in someplace. Doesn't have to be in your house. You can put it in a bank, a credit union that's close to you. If something happens, if there's a wildfire, you could quickly go pull out as much money as you can and then evacuate, right? So that you have money when that kind of thing happens. So that those kind of emergencies that happen, you could quickly grab it, right? Okay, let's talk about how to build an emergency fund. What you want to do is first determine your monthly living expenses, right? Remember, in our budget, we're looking at our debts, we're looking at our expenses, and we're also looking at, I wouldn't say fun, but I would definitely just debt and expenses, kind of the big ones. And emergency fund should be 3 to 9 months of those living costs, right? Debts, expenses, and again, you take the number, multiply it by 3 to 9 months, and you get a rough number of how much you need. And why 3 to 9 months? Studies have shown that in emergencies, like real emergencies, it takes 3 to 9 months for people to recover. So that could be a job loss, right? If you lost your job, it may take you 3 to 9 months to recover. Maybe there's a medical issue. It might take you 3 to 9 months to recover from a car accident or other medical procedure. Or maybe there's a family member that you need to help take care of. 3 to 9 months of expenses can help cover when that happens. So you want to start small and build up over time. Again, you don't need that $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 right now. You just slowly add money to it. You can automate your savings. That's what I do. Every month, about $200 is automatically taken out of my accounts. I don't see it. I don't hear about it. But at the end of I always check my emergency fund account, and I kind of just watch it grow. Cut unnecessary expenses, right? I'll give you kind of a pro tip here. One of my attendees for my workshops shared this with me. They cut their streaming, like Disney Plus and Netflix, Amazon Prime. What they did is they have a couple shows that they really love to watch, but instead of subscribing for the whole year, they just subscribe for 1 month when all the episodes come out, and they just binge watch the whole month, and then they cancel their subscription. So it's brilliant, right? You only pay for 1 month, but you're able to watch everything all at once. And you don't have to pay for a whole year, which you're not really watching anything else. Okay. Any kind of, tax refunds, bonuses, monetary gifts, right? People giving you money for your birthday. Instead of just spending it, you might be able to just put it into your emergency fund, right? You could help build it that way. And of course, you could always sell stuff, right? Anything that you're not needing, you could sell it, put it into that emergency fund, help build it. Big tip here. Again, remember to replenish your funds after you use it. You don't want to be caught in an emergency and then another emergency happens and you don't have any money and then you end up getting into debt, right? So replenish the funds after you use it. You don't have to type it here. How much of emergency fund do you need? Again, we talked about this. This is more of an internal question you're asking yourself. And it's very important when you're thinking about a budget, right? In my budget worksheet, right, when you're doing all your numbers, if you're doing it along with me, by the way, when I do this workshop, we write that number at the top, and that way hey, this is the number I need to save for an emergency. So let's talk about the psychology of budgeting, right? This slide, by the way, was developed by a financial psychologist. The one thing that she talked about is budgeting is such a negative word. People don't like to say it, right? Especially if your friends are going out, to eat or drink or have a good time, and they say, hey, come with us. You might feel embarrassed to say that I'm on a budget. So instead of saying that, instead of putting that budget mind frame, just say that you're on a spending plan, or say that you're on a savings plan. This is the most popular one, because that kind of creates a conversation, right? If your friends are going out, they say, hey, come with us. And you say, oh, I can't, I'm on a savings plan. They're going to ask, what are you saving for? And that's when you could talk to them about your financial goals. I'm saving to buy a house. I'm saving for retirement. I'm saving for my kids' college. And believe it or not, your friends, your family, people who love you are going to support that. They're going to say, yeah, I'm all about that, right? You want to buy a house? I want to buy a house too. I'm all about it, right? Let's just eat in today. So yeah, just frame it differently. Okay, budgeting helps with impulsive spending, right? So think about it, when you have a budget, it's harder for you, in general, it's harder for you to just go out and randomly spend impulsively. The other thing to think about is budgeting is not no or never, right? This is another thing people believe budgeting is. It's restricting you, it's stopping you from doing things, and that's not true. Budgeting is just not right now, right? I did not plan to go on a road trip. I did not plan to go to dinner with my friends, but I can do that next month, right? I can put it in the budget for next month. I could put it in the budget, later on. So it's not no or never. And sometimes that stops people, right? People don't want to have that restriction, and it's not a restriction. It's just not right now. I didn't plan for it, and I don't want to plan for it. Stress spending, right? It's a great way, having a budget, manage that stress spending. Reminder, spending is something you control. It's a habit, right? Spending is a habit which you can control, and that budget is going to help you do that. The other thing a budget is going to help you do is identify those external influences, right? So when you're looking at your budget, right, again, being able to look at all your things you're spending money on, you're going to look at what is causing you to spend money on, products or services, right? So is society and social acceptance causing you to spend a lot of money, right? Maybe you're putting a lot of money into cars because all your friends have really nice cars. Maybe it's particular advertisements that are affecting you. So you need to cut those ads out of your life, right? maybe it's peer pressure or peer comparing. And then there's things like family. I have a big family and they're a big influence on my life. When I started budgeting, I recognized that I spend a lot of money on my family. And I needed to just talk to them and say, hey, listen, I got to pull back. I spend too much money taking you guys out to eat, buying stuff for you. If I want to reach my financial goals, here's my budget. And I need to pull back. And they support that. They love me. They want to see me achieve my financial goals. And having a plan in place helps them better understand, right? It's not just, I don't want to spend money more on you anymore. It's, hey, I'm trying to achieve these financial goals and trying to save for my kids' college. And they will understand that, right? Okay, and we talked about those, developing those healthy spending and saving behaviors. A big thing about budgeting is trying to get you to start doing it without having to write it on paper or check an app all the time, right? Here's some tips. I'm not going to read through all these, but I will highlight a couple, okay? Big tip here, remember that every month is different. Every month is different. You're going to spend more money in December than you are in March. And that's because December, it's the holidays. You're traveling, you are going to buy gifts for people. So you want to update your budget every month to reflect that, right? Maybe you have a lot of friends and family that have birthdays in November. You want to make sure November is different from your July budget, right? We talked about budgeting tools. Make sure you get the budgeting tool that works for you. There's a lot of different apps out there, and have those short-term and long-term financial goals, right? So long-term financial goal for me, build a college fund for my kids. My two boys, one is 7, one is 4. They have a long time before they go to college, which is good. I'm slowly going to save up money so that when they're ready, they'll have it. It's a long-term financial goal. Short-term, in 2 years, I want to take my family to Japan. Slowly saving for that, but I know it's coming soon. So if I'm close, if I have more money, I could put money in there to reach those financial goals. Oh, and the last one, very important, be content, right? It's be content, quit comparisons. Just because your neighbor bought a brand new Tesla does not mean you need to. Be happy with what you have, and not saying you shouldn't be ambitious, but also recognize your abilities, what you're able to do, and what you're able to control, and be happy with that, right? As my wife says, count your blessings. Also, create barriers to spending. I'll share you my story. I love buying power tools. I love it. My barrier is my wife. So before I go buy a power tool, I have to talk to her, and she gives me a bunch of questions like, do you need this? How often will you use it? Can you use another tool that does the same thing, right? She is my barrier to spending. And if I can convince her that I should buy this tool, she'll let me. So that's an example. You could do all different types of barriers, but sometimes when spending is such a habit to break, creating those barriers to at least slow you down is going to make you think about it more, and help you save money. Okay, so we talked about the difference between debt and expenses. So remember, debt is money you owe, expense is an ongoing cost. The two differences to managing debt is, of course, don't borrow more than you can pay, and pay it off as fast as possible. For expenses, you don't want to obviously spend more than you earn, and you want to keep your expenses as low as possible, right? Cut those expenses. And again, having a budget is going to help you manage those debts and expenses. I'm going to talk about 2 methods on managing debt real quick. Again, I'm not going to read this whole list, but I'll kind of give you a quick review of it, right? For the snowball method, it's a very popular method. What you do is you list your debts, you make the minimum payments on each one except the smallest debt, and then you use all the extra money to pay off the smallest debt first, and you just kind of repeat the process. And this works because it allows you to experience those quick wins, right? So let's say you have $500, $1,000, $2,000 debt. you want to make the minimum payments with the snowball method on the $1,000 and $2,000. But any extra money you have, you're going to try to pay off that $500 debt as fast as possible, right? Put as much money into it. And once you pay that off, any extra money you're going to put into that $1,000 debt. And again, that gives you a quick win, right? In your head, you're going to say, I just paid off $500. $1,000 is not that far away, and I could quickly pay that off too, right? So early successes gives you that quick hit of endorphins that keep going, right? The other method is called the avalanche method. And it's very similar. What you do is you list your, again, debts, but instead you list it from highest interest rate to lowest interest rate. And then you make payments on, you put most of your money into the highest interest rate. Now, mathematically, you're actually going to be saving more money by doing that, because your highest interest rate is obviously, using the most money, and you're, by paying that off faster, you're saving money by not paying so much interest. The downside to this is sometimes your largest debt also has the highest interest rate, and it takes you a really long time to pay it off. And for many people, without getting that quick win, it's hard for them to continue going, right? It doesn't give them as much motivation, but it works for some people. So if it works for you, that's great. We do want the DFPI, we do want to caution you with a number of different businesses out there. There are businesses, and we license, by the way, some of these businesses. We have debt relief companies, debt settlement companies, debt cost consolidation companies, credit repair companies. These are legitimate organizations. However, you want to be very, very careful with them, because some of them some of them can overpromise. Some of them might have really high fees. Others will make promises which they never, that they're not able to do at all, right? So be very careful when you're thinking about using any of these types of businesses. Again, we get a lot of complaints from individuals who have problems with these types of companies. And if you do, by the way, if you have a debt settlement company, or if you're using a credit repair company and you're having problems with them, you can actually contact us, and we're more than happy to review and investigate what's happening. So yeah. Finally, just want to say, stay motivated, right? You're not alone. Many people budget. I budget. Don't let your money control you. You can control your money. You can achieve your financial goals. Your budget is the roadmap to getting there, right? To achieving your goals. And get rid of your financial anxiety, right? Creating a budget will provide you with that confidence and relief. And with it, I do have a couple minutes left, so I just want to talk about how to protect yourself from fraud and scams, because even if you do this great work budgeting and saving money and building wealth, you could lose it all to scammers. And one of the things that my department does, we're very focused on, is helping people protect themselves from frauds and scams. So there are a lot of different types of scams out there. I could talk about all these types of scams, but I'm not going to read them. Imposter scams are the largest category of scams. But this is the thing. We've developed what we call the 6 layers of scam prevention, right? So to avoid scams, to help, protect yourself from these scams, the first line of defense, probably the biggest one, most important one, do not respond to scammers, right? Scammers are calling you, they're texting you, they're sending you messages, emails. If you don't know who it is, if it doesn't sound legitimate, just ignore it. If you get a phone call from a phone number you don't recognize, just let it go to voicemail, right? And that leads us to the second line of defense, which is do your research, right? Go to use original sources. If someone texts you a phone number or a link, don't click on it. Don't call those numbers. Go directly to someone, to whoever, right? So let's say you get an email and it says it's from the post office and you have a package, and please click on this link or call this phone number. Don't do that. Go directly to the post office's website, or you could go directly to your post office and just show them the email and say, hey, is this legitimate, right? Did you actually send me an email? Layer three protection, right? Third line of defense. Take your time. Scammers love to create a sense of urgency. They want you to move really, really fast. And they do this so that uh, when you're moving very fast, you're going to miss the red flags that you would normally see. So they're going to create a sense of urgency, like I need help right now, or this is a limited time opportunity, or you need to do this, or we'll come to your house, right? Take your time, slow down. The other thing you want to do is limit the information you share, right? So don't share your personal or financial information unless you know who it is that you're talking to, right? Don't share your information over the phone to people text messaging you, that kind of thing. Layer five protection is to talk to someone you trust, right? And very important because, again, when you're moving really fast, oftentimes you're going to miss those red flags. But having someone else that you're talking to, that additional perspective can give you, could show you those red flags that you missed, right? So again, very oftentimes just talking to someone else, someone you trust, can point out the things that you missed. And then, of course, layer six, stay vigilant. Scammers know that you're not going to pick up on the first call. What they're going to do is they're going to keep calling you. They're going to keep text messaging you because they're waiting for the time you need to pick up the phone, right? The time you're waiting for a call from your doctor, the time you're waiting for a text message, that's when they're trying to contact you. So continually stay vigilant. Someone knocking at your door and offering you solar, the first thing that should come to your head is this is probably a scam, right? I need to be vigilant. I need to check my sources, right? And then, of course, you could always report fraud to the FTC. They have a great website where they track fraud and help prevent it from happening to others. The website is reportfraud.ftc.gov. With that, I do quickly want to talk about credit reports. You can get a free copy of your credit report once a week. You just got to go to the annualcreditreport.com. And what you're looking for is signs of identity theft. So when you get your credit report, you're looking for loans that you never took out, credit cards that you never applied for, that kind of thing. And also think about freezing your credit. It's free. It's a great way to protect you from identity theft. Finally, I just want to remind you that the DFPI is here to protect you and your community. Please contact us if you've been a victim of a scam, a financial fraud, or abusive business practice. If you observe elder financial abuse, we work closely with Adult Protective Services, and we want to help protect individuals. We have a phone number and a link where you can submit complaints, and we will help review and investigate those. With that, just a quick final reminders. I know I'm over my time. The DFPI, we have a newsletter which you can subscribe to. It's a monthly email newsletter, and we have we highlight events we're doing. We have great consumer financial education there. We also have a YouTube channel where we publish our videos, our financial education videos. And in April, we're having a Protect Yourself from Investment Scams webinar. Please feel free to go check it out, register for it. I'd like to see you there. And with that, I want to say thank you so much for your time. Big thank you again for the DOR for helping host this webinar. I will be answering questions when you put it into the Q&A. And with that, Tish, I'm going to hand it back to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Koo. Lots of great information, tips and tools. I'm sure we'll have some questions towards the end of the webinar. But I know that many of us, participating today are on limited income if you're on benefits. And so our next presenter is going to be discussing CalAble. Even with limited income, savings is still possible. And the CalAble is just a great tool that makes it possible, where you can safely save and start to build some financial stability. So Thomas, I'm going to hand it over to you.
All right, great. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thanks, DOR, for having me. So again, yes, I'm Thomas Martin. I'm the executive director of CalAble. Very happy to be able to talk to you about our program and how it can really help with planning and saving and all those great things. Even if you're Whether or not you're trying to protect benefits, whether or not you have limited income, Calable is a great tool for you. It works in a lot of different ways, so that's what I'm gonna be walking through. So, what is Calable? So Calable is a savings and investment program. So it allows people with disabilities to open up these accounts, start saving in them, and spend when they need to, but protect benefits in the process. So that's the goal. That's the whole package. How do we help people be able to save, spend when they need to save, spend when they need to spend, and keep their benefits intact at the same time. So, first things first. Let's start with just who is eligible for Calable, just to establish the baseline. So, you do have to have an eligible disability to have a Calable account. The ways to know that are, one is if you are eligible for SSI or SSDI, then you're good to go. You already know that the disability itself is eligible. However, if you don't receive SSI, you don't receive SSDI, that's okay. You can still self-certify. I have an account for myself. I have an account for each of my kids. None of us receive SSI or SSDI. One or both of my kids might receive SSI at some point in the future, but today, for now, we don't. But we can still self-certify that we have an eligible disability. So there's some information on our website. It's calable.ca.gov. If you click the eligibility link at the top, it'll walk you through a bit more about that and where you can look information about the diagnoses. But again, you self-certify, and that's basically it. So we don't need documentation. We don't want documentation. Don't send us anything, any medical records. We just point out this is the requirement. So as long as you have a diagnosis in your file, like I'm autistic, I have in my medical record is a diagnosis from my doctor, then I'm good to go. The other thing you have to keep in mind is that's how you know if the disability itself is an eligible one. There's also the start date to the disability that you have to keep in mind. So the disability had to have begun before the age of 46. So it doesn't matter how old you are today, it just depends when the disability began. Like my disability began at birth. So it doesn't matter how old I am, I could still have a Calable account because it happened before the age of 46. So that's what you want to keep in mind. That's who can have an account. So you can receive benefits, you can not receive benefits, you can be working, you can be not working. None of those are factors in whether or not you can have a Calable account. So it just really depends when the disability began. So that's who can have it. So why would you want to have a Calable account? For a handful of good reasons. So for one, having a disability can be very expensive. It can mean that you have greater expenses because you need adaptive technology, or there's certain living environments you can live in. My kids and I all have very different diets that, we all have, our own specialty stuff that can be expensive. Also, having a disability can also impact your earning potential as well. So you want to be able to save and plan and do all the things that, they heard about earlier. How do you plan for the future? That can be harder if you have a disability. Calable can hopefully help you with that. You also would want to think about Calable because you want to protect eligibility for benefits. Again, you don't have to receive benefits to have a Calable account, but if you do, that's an even better reason to have a Calable account. But also just simply because you want to be able to plan. You want to have a lifetime of planning. You want to do all the great things you heard from DFPI earlier. How do you plan for the future? Calable is a way to help you do that. Calable helps you plan for today, helps you plan for tomorrow, and it helps you do that either for yourself if you have a disability, and or for a loved one with a disability as well. So let's talk about benefits. I know given the audience, given the subject matter, I'm sure a lot of attendees receive benefits and are concerned about protecting it. So as I'm sure you folks know, a lot of those benefits programs have very strict limits. SSI is for me a really big example. I want to be able to plan for my kids for when they're adults. I want to do what every parent wants to be able to do and have some sort of nest egg, some sort of plan for them. So when they turn 18, they have something to start with. But at least one, if not both of them, will receive SSI when they turn 18. And SSI limits you, so you can't have more than $2,000 as an individual and still keep your SSI benefits. $2,000 is nothing. With $2,000, they basically wouldn't be able to move out of my house. Not, at least not to be able to live alone, not to have an apartment. $2,000 isn't enough for first and last month's rent for an apartment, let alone a deposit, let alone, furniture and food and all the other things that you need to live in an apartment. So effectively, it means that if you're receiving benefits like SSI, you might be unable to be independent, because of the requirements for the program. But that's where CalAble comes in. So with CalAble, you can have up to $100,000 in a CalAble account and keep SSI benefits intact. So going from $2 to $100,000, that's a huge change in what you can plan for, how you can save. That also applies to any other benefits program that looks at your assets. So in some cases, CalFresh, aka food stamps, aka SNAP, housing choice vouchers or Section 8, Section 8 housing, those can have asset limits depending on your scenario. Medi-Cal has an asset limit as of this year of I think it's $130,000. CalAble is exempt by law from those asset limits. So any local, state, or federal program that has an asset limit in place, CalAble is exempt. So it's a great way to be able to save and plan. And CalAble is also exempt from Medi-Cal estate recovery in the vast majority of cases. So, so I mentioned income. I think it's helpful to understand the difference between income and assets. Income is how much money you have coming in. You heard a little bit about, talking a little bit about income earlier. Income is how much money you have coming in. Usually it's from a paycheck, but it can be from other sources. And those other sources can include gifts from friends and family. So a lot of benefits programs, they look at your income. How much money are you making? And some of those programs, like SSI, they can, in many cases, count gifts from friends and family as income. Or it can at least count in some way towards or realistically against your benefits. So that's one factor. And then the other factor that a lot of benefits program look at is your assets. So how much money you have on hand, how much cash you have, how much money you have in the bank, those sorts of things. In some cases, they'll look at houses and that sort of thing. So what CalAble helps protect is any assets, any cash assets that you save in your CalAble account. So any of those assets that is protected again from any of those standard limits for any local, state, or federal program. It also helps with gifts in preventing them from counting as income. So a gift into a CalAble account doesn't count as income, which in some cases, like for SSI, that might count against you. But if it's put in a CalAble account, it does not count as income for that purpose. So if you get paid, if you're working, you get a paycheck, that will still count as income whether or not you put it in a CalAble account. So it's still something you'd have to think about. But with CalAble, you can at least save and build what you have and keep your benefits intact. So the ultimate goal for CalAble, the ultimate mission is really to help people be as independent as they can. No matter where they're at, no matter what they need at any point in their life, no matter how old they are, helping people be more independent. That's the goal. So how does it work? So a little bit about functionality. So with CalAble, I already mentioned you can have up to $100,000 in a CalAble account and keep your SSI benefits intact. Anything over the 100,000 that can start to count towards that standard $2,000 limit. But up to 100,000, you're intact. But let's say you don't receive SSI or you're not worried about protecting it. If that's the case, you can have up to $529,000 total in your account. So that applies, again, that's for anyone who's not receiving SSI. So if you're not receiving SSI, If you're receiving other benefits or you're not receiving any benefits at all, it doesn't matter. You can have up to $529,000 total in the account. So you'd reach either of these caps over multiple years. You can contribute up to $20,000 into a Cal account per year. So in the calendar year. So for that's the limit for this year. Each year it might adjust a little bit, but for 2026 you can add up to $20,000 in the account. So again, multiple years you can hit one of those two caps. There is one exception to the $20,000 annual limit, which is if someone is working and their employer isn't paying into a retirement plan. That's called Able to Work. So if you need more information on that, you should check on our website because it gets a little bit detailed, but you may be able to contribute more than the standard annual limit. And then, okay, so what happens when the money is in the account? What do you do with it? So we have 8 different investment options to pick and choose from. One is similar to like a savings account. It has an interest rate. It's FDIC insured. The other 7 are tied to stocks and bonds and securities, those sorts of things. So you can pick and choose. You can do one of them. You can do all 8 of them. It's really up to you what you're looking to save and plan for. Now, I already mentioned that folks can give money and it doesn't count as income. Anyone can give you money. So anyone can give you money. You can have a gifting page. You can send the link out to everyone, say, hey, give me money for pizza or whatever. I don't care. Anyone can put money into the account for you, which just makes it very easy for family or community to be able to support someone with a disability. So when you put the money in, you can decide when you want to spend it. So you can save it as long as you need to. I have my own Cal account. I'm using it as like a second retirement plan, basically. So I can put the money in and I'm saving for the long term. On the other hand, you can also spend it when you need to. So I bought a house, and so I put a bunch of money towards that recently. And other account holders, some of them are doing the same thing. They're saving for the long term. Others are using it for day-to-day spending. Either option is fine. It's really a matter of what's best for you. There's no penalties. You don't have to worry about, is there a certain amount of time you have to wait before you can, you don't have to wait 7 years or something to access the money. Access it when you need to. Um, and there are fees for the account. It's $30 per year plus a small percentage of what you have invested. Varies based on the options you choose. But it is low, and the goal is to keep it as low and affordable as possible to make it accessible. And one thing that helps, one thing that can help offset the fees is that you don't pay any taxes, any state or federal taxes on what you earn in the account from the different investment options. So if you put $1,000 in and you earn $100 over the next 7 months, something like that, you wouldn't pay taxes on that. Whereas normally, if you put it in a savings account or investment options, something else, normally you would have to pay taxes, not with a Cal account. So it's a great way to be able to save and plan for the future. And then, so, you do need to be able to use it on qualified expenses. So what can you spend it on? The rule of thumb is it needs to benefit the health, independence, or quality of life of the person with the disability. Health, independence, quality of life. That's the rule. So on the screen are some examples of what that could look like. So education and job training, housing, transportation, healthcare, food, recreation, a lot of things, basically. Anything that's going to benefit the person with disability is probably going to benefit their health, independence, quality of life. So, you just want to make sure you're spending it for that person. It can also benefit someone else, but as long as it's benefiting the person with disability, it's almost certainly going to be an appropriate expense. One clarification that I wanted to add is if you use it for housing and you receive SSI benefits, you would need to use it in the same calendar month that you withdraw it. So you can spend directly from the account. I'll get into that in a sec. You can also transfer to like a separate bank account. And like if you wanted to write a check from that account, for example, you could do that. But it needs to be in the same calendar month if it's used for housing related expenses. So I apologize, that's not our rule, that's federal government's rule. So just make sure you're planning accordingly. So you might want to make sure you pay your rent, slightly ahead of the end of the month, for example, just to make sure you don't go over. If it is in a separate calendar month, that can count against you for SSI benefits. If you're not protecting SSI though, if you don't receive SSI, then don't even have to worry about it. Spend when you need to spend it. And then, so how does what's the actual mechanism for spending? There's a couple of options. You can transfer money, like I said, from your Calable account to like a bank account, a credit union account, something like that. So I've done that. I did that to help purchase my house. You can also have a check that's made and mailed out, like to you or to a bill pay recipient, something like that. So unfortunately, we don't have a regular checkbook, but you can have it made and mailed out to you or whoever it needs to be. But you can also, the easiest, most convenient thing is to use the prepaid card. That's what I typically use. So we have a Visa card that's attached to the account. You decide how much money you want to load onto the card from your account, and then you just go use it like a Visa card. You can use it in person at stores. You can use it online. Whatever is going to be best for you. You can new feature for this year. You can withdraw cash using it. You still have to make sure you use it for those qualified expenses, but as long as you use it for qualified expenses, you can withdraw cash and go use where you need to use cash. I got stuff off of Facebook Marketplace, and I needed cash for that, and I use my Calable card to do that. And this is something that you heard about earlier when you're thinking about emergency planning, emergency funds. If you have money saved in investments, it can take a few days sometimes to get the money cashed out so you can withdraw it. That's the same case with Calable. If you have money in your in the investment options to withdraw it, it can take a couple of days. However, if you put it on your Visa card, there's your emergency fund right there. You put the money on the card and you can access it immediately whenever you need to. And then, so how do you open an account? So hopefully folks who are interested and wondering how you actually open a Calable account, it's very easy. So our website is calable.ca.gov. There's along the top, you can see a handful of things. You can see, information about how it works, information about eligibility, investment options, join our mailing list. But there's also a big gold button that says open an account. You just click on that and start going through the steps. It really doesn't take too long. It took me like 8 minutes when I opened my account. Um, so it's not that different from opening like a bank account or something like that. There's a little bit of more information you need, but it's not that bad, I promise. And so some things you need to know. The money always belongs to the person with the disability. It is their account, it is their money. Someone can help them run it. Someone can manage the account for them. I manage my kids' accounts. Someone could just simply help them run their own account. And that's fine too. But no matter what, it always belongs to the person with a disability. And something we're really excited about, you can open the account in 20 different languages. So Spanish, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Tagalog, Russian, Portuguese, trying to test the ASL interpreters. I don't know. We have a lot of languages. There's a good chance that whatever you're looking for, we can support. And so if you have any questions, if you need to contact us, here is our phone number. It's 833-CAL-ABLE. You can call them. It supports 240 languages. It supports hearing impairments as well. Just give us a call. We can help you out. You can also sign up for emails and newsletters. There's a QR code on the screen, but again, it's at the top of the website, like I mentioned earlier. And then last few things, and I'll be ready for any questions or anything else. Just quick disclosure. So because we do provide investment options, any investment option that's not specific to Calable, any investment option does carry the risk of loss. So that's something you want to think about when you're planning and planning for what you're saving for. But again, we do have an FDIC insured savings option that's more like a savings account. We also call it the cash option. That's insured up to $250,000 by the FDIC. That has an interest rate, so that is an option if you're looking at helping managing your risk as well. And with that, I'll turn it back over to DOR and happy to answer any questions folks have.
Yeah, great information, really goes hand in hand with budgeting and saving. Great opportunity for people with disabilities to build some financial security. So thank you, Thomas.